Alright guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today we're going to be talking about my Flowmax Turbo. As you can tell from the title of the video, the issue that I thought I had that was fairly simple actually ended up being much more significant. It ended up being a physical problem with the turbo. So I had to send the turbo out, get it repaired, and got it back. And today we're going to be reinstalling it. But I just kind of wanted to use this opportunity to share with you guys the reality of upgrading your turbo or just modifying your cars in general. A lot of you have been reaching out to me with your different issues. I've got, at this point, thousands and thousands of messages of you guys talking about problems that you've had with your car and kind of helping you work through it. And this really is something that I think everybody should consider, even on a platform that's as great as the B58. So in this video, we'll talk more about the actual issue that I had, and I'll share with you how you can make sure that you don't have this issue with your turbo upgrade. And then in general, we'll talk more about, the realities of what can come with upgrading your car. So let's go ahead and talk about it.
Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future.
So let's start with a quick recap. So if you guys have seen my previous videos, then you'll know that I've been tracking my 340i. Last year, I tracked it with the stock turbo and it was fine, but I wanted a little more power. So that motivated me to upgrade the turbo to the new Dynamic Autowerks UltraFlow X. Now this is the smallest turbo that they have, but my focus is response. So I want the quickest spooling turbo possible. I'm not shooting for horsepower records. I don't drag race my car. I just want something that can give me good response when I'm coming out of turns. And when I installed this turbo, it was great. It performed similar to big turbos that I've used in the past. Made pretty good power, definitely made more power on pump gas than it did before. And I was getting started tuning on ethanol when it was time for me to go do my track day. So I switched back to pump gas, brought it to the track, ran a couple logs on the way to make sure things were good, and then we just went ahead and sent it. Now in my first session, unfortunately, I got a drivetrain malfunction. After about 15 minutes of driving, the car had an issue, and so I pulled it into the pits and scanned for codes to see what was wrong. The first code that I got said that the wastegate was sluggish, and so I cleared the code, turned the car off and turned it back on, and I started getting codes for the stop position not being recognized. So to me, this indicated, your typical wastegate adaptation or, length issue. So I adjusted the length, tried to get it into the ballpark where it would work, but I was still getting codes. And so at this point, I took the wastegate arm off, and that's when I started checking the wastegate, and it seemed like it was sticking. It would close, but when it moved to the open position, it would kind of like snap to the open position. It wasn't moving very smoothly. And so to me, I associated that with the code as saying that, it wasn't moving freely. That created the sluggish code. Now I reached out to Sean at Dynamic Autowerks, and he said that he had seen this before with people that weren't running an under tray under their car. So basically you could get some dirt in the wastegate arm and that would mess up the movement. Now I've been running my under tray, but just in case, we figured something got in there. So I went to the hardware store, got this dry lube that uses like a graphite spray and sprayed it on the wastegate. And this is nice because it uses graphite to actually lubricate it. So the material itself won't burn off or evaporate or cause any issues, but the graphite itself has lubrication properties and it works fine on exhaust setups. So sprayed that on there, seemed to work better for one session. Then the codes came back. So basically, long story short, I ended up having to finish the weekend by constantly clearing the code in order to drive the car. Every time I'd turn it on, I'd get a drivetrain malfunction. But if I cleared the code, it let me drive fine. There were no misfires or anything. I think the biggest gap that I felt is the car was a little bit slow to respond coming out of turns. So again, if you guys saw the video, you might have seen like when I'm coming out of a turn, if I'm in a lower RPM or like a higher gear, sometimes I had to downshift to build up the torque and get the acceleration speed I was looking for. So that was the really only issue that I saw, but I figured, this is something that I can address when I get home. So when I got back home, I pulled off the downpipe and checked the wastegate, and this is when I saw the actual issue. So when I thought it was closed, it actually wasn't closing. The wastegate was definitely sticking, but this is completely different from anything I've seen before. It wouldn't go fully closed or fully open. So when I swung it either way, it would not hit the actual stop position. So it was only going between like 30 and 70% open, which was really strange. So again, I reached out to Dynamic Autowerks, shared with them the video, and they agreed something was defective in the turbo, so they took it back. And at this point, they fixed it. They replaced the entire wastegate, sub-assembly and sent it back to me so I can reinstall it and go back to finishing my testing. So, really unfortunate that it actually had a mechanical failure, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. We got the new one back, or we got it repaired. So we'll make sure that it's actually working properly, and then we'll install it on the car and again, talk about what you guys should learn from this. All right, so this is the turbo. It has been returned, and you can see it's obviously used. So this is my turbo. This is not a brand new turbo, but what they did is they replaced this wastegate assembly. So basically all of this is welded to a rod, or like one piece with a rod, and then they weld it on top of here to weld it onto this flat. So you can see now it fully swings open and closed. I think this also kind of gives a unique look at this, because I haven't really looked at this as closely as I have, the past couple weeks, obviously with this issue. But you can see that there's basically this little feature, like this little piece that sticks out on the casting. And so that's what it hits to hit the fully open position. And then obviously fully closed is when it's actually hitting the flat. So before it was like bouncing back and forth between these two spots. Now it goes fully closed and it goes fully open. So that should be fine. But yeah, this was the issue. If you guys are interested in verifying that yours is fine when you get it, I would just go fully closed and fully open and make sure that this can swing freely. You don't feel any binding or anything like that. I asked Dynamic Autowerks what the problem was, and they shared with me a picture where that rod that goes through the housing looked like it was just chewed up. So something definitely got in there. We're not sure if it's dirt. He said, in the worst case, it could be like machining dust or something from their manufacturing process, but that's not something that they've really seen before either. So something definitely just got in there, tore it up, and prevented it from opening and closing properly. And those tolerances are really tight, so it definitely can't let anything, get in there. So I'll be keeping an eye on that, but this definitely shows that the problem is fixed. So yeah. All right, so I was planning on being cute for this part and just easily dropping in my turbo, but I'm already sweaty. It's super hot in the garage, so you guys are gonna get authentic greasy Kern in his natural habitat. So let's go ahead and finish this up. But the topic at hand. So yeah, really, I just kind of wanted to share with you guys that stuff happens. There's nothing really that you can do to avoid an issue. Just even if you do everything right, something can go wrong. I remember the first time I did an oil change, it was on my 2009 Jetta, and it's super easy job. Drain, fill, swap out your oil filter. And when I went to swap out my oil filter, it was completely seized on the engine, and I was unable to get it off. And I saw this trick somebody posted that you jam a screwdriver through it and twist, and it will twist it off. And so I did that, and the screwdriver completely ripped through the metal casing of the oil filter. When I twisted, it just tore through it and ripped the oil filter in half. And of course, it's Sunday at 4 p.m. I've got work on Monday. And thankfully, the apartment complex that I lived in was just really the back of an advanced auto parts. So I was able to hop the fence, go over there and get some tools. It still took me like 3 trips to get it done, but I was finally able to get it off. And that's just like another illustration that you can do everything right. It can be the easiest job in the world. It can be the most reliable car, and still things can go wrong, especially when you buy used cars, you modify stuff. It's not necessarily your fault. Anything can happen. So just be aware of that if you're doing anything, especially with turbos. I know that's something that a lot of people are worried about because it's a pretty expensive investment. And I've seen all the turbos fail. I've seen Dynamic Autowerks turbos fail. I've seen Pure turbos fail. I've definitely seen Vargas turbos fail. I've seen Precision turbos, Garrett turbos. All of them can have issues. So that's not something that anyone is immune to. They all can have manufacturing defects. In this case, I don't think it's like a design problem. So I've been telling people, I don't feel like this is any reason to not go with these turbos. This is kind of like a one-off issue, and a lot of other people that are already using these turbos are having no issue. So it really just seems like
there was either a defect or, like we said, some dirt got in there that unfortunately caused the wastegate to get messed up. But, you know, again, things can happen even on a reliable platform like the B58. And it's not always the parts, right? Sometimes it's an installer issue. Sometimes it's a shop. I was working with one guy that I was trying to help him fix his car because it was not building boost like it was supposed to. And it ended up being like a huge exhaust leak because the shop forgot to install the exhaust gasket. And simple mistake, not their fault in the case that they were like deliberately doing something wrong, but it took forever for them to figure it out, because that's the last thing you want to do is completely take the turbo off to see if a gasket is there. And so, you know, it took several weeks for him to get that, and he was frustrated because he's got a car that's messed up and can't get it tuned and all this stuff. But that's a risk. Like, that's something that can happen. Even when I do stuff myself, I make mistakes all the time, and it's just something that I have to be aware of. You know, I've got to look over my work and be aware that if I make a mistake, there could be something wrong. Hopefully you follow your due diligence to make sure you minimize the chance of that, or at least catch it before you drive the car away, but it's not always a guarantee. Also, I just realized I forgot to say something here. Make sure you work with a company that has good customer service. A company that stands behind their products, typically somebody that you see active in the community. They're probably in forums or Facebook groups, you know, responding to people and giving customer support. Those are the companies that you want to work with. Again, any company can have failures, but you want to work with somebody that's going to stand behind their products. If they're always blaming the customer, if they're always, you know, rejecting warranty claims, it's probably not somebody that you want to work with. So, you know, again, this can happen to anyone. It's not a guarantee that it's going to work, but if you have a company that has good customer service, that'll make the process a whole lot easier and make things just go a lot more smoothly. You don't want to feel like you have to fight with a company that you paid good money to. So the motto that I like to live by is, you know, plan for the worst, hope for the best. You know, and especially on the B58, like I said, it's a reliable platform. It's pretty easy to install. It's not that difficult to, you know, avoid messing something up, but you can. It's just a part of the game. So make sure that you can handle that. Don't use your last dollar to pay for a turbo and an install if you don't have money in case something goes wrong. If you need to fix something, you know, you need to be able to account for that. I think in total, my car was down for 2 weeks. And that's, you know, me getting back from my track day on Sunday. I didn't get a chance to look at it until Tuesday. And then I sent pictures to Dynamic Autowerks, and they sent me a return label on Wednesday. So I sent the turbo back, got it back the following week. And now it's, you know, the weekend where I'm finally able to work on it and put the turbo back on. So this might not be your case if you've got it at a shop or you've got enough time to just jump right into it. But just keep that in mind. You know, that might be time where you need to rent a car, or you need to get Ubered everywhere. You got to do food delivery instead of just going grocery shopping like normal. Do you have the capacity to account for that? Even if it's nobody's fault or whoever's fault it is, they're taking care of it. There still could be other implications for you as the owner if this is like your only car. And, you know, Dynamic Autowerks asked me if it was okay if they took their time with this one because they were working on other orders and stuff. And I told them I don't want any special treatment, you know, but also I have other cars. Like, I'm not in a rush. I can get around if I need to. I can take my time with this and get it swapped out whenever it's returned. So, again, it's just kind of one of those things. Be ready for the worst. Have the capacity for it and hope for the best. And I think the last thing that I would recommend is just understand your mods, man. And this is one of those platforms, again, where it's so easy to modify. And I think a lot of the reason my channel is flourishing is because people don't really want to spend the time to fully understand their car. And I have some people telling me, like, I'm not answering their question because I just want to know what turbo is best, what high pressure fuel pump is best. And I'm not answering XYZ. This is what you should do. This is your B58 build-a-kit. Like, this isn't something that's that simple because so many things work. And it's more important for you to understand what works and understand your goals and what it takes to get there in order for you to actually reach your goals. And that just bothers people. They just want there to be like this simple, easy answer to that question. What is best? What should I do? So if you've picked a route, if you've picked a turbo, a fuel upgrade, whatever, make sure you understand how it works. Even if you're not installing it, make sure you understand where it is, what it is, how it goes on. If you have an issue, you should be able to look at it. You should be able to run logs. You should be able to scan for codes and try to figure out if it's something simple or if it's something that's going to require more extensive diagnostics and repair. You know, you want to be able to at least have an idea of what's going on, even if you're not actually doing the work. And I know everybody's not going to be an expert. Everybody's not going to have the capacity and tools to do things on their own. But I think understanding it can, one, make sure you know what's wrong, and two, make sure if you're working with a shop or whatever, you can make sure that what they're saying makes sense, because they probably don't have as much experience with your car. They don't know your full setup. They might not know, like, you've got some special adapter for your PCV delete because your car is a convertible or something, you know, that makes your car special and not just a regular run-of-the-mill setup, even if they've done it before. So, yeah, I would just say understanding those details, understanding basic stuff like running logs, understanding codes can really help. I think something I actually learned here, because I was getting those codes for stop position, and I learned that stop position and close position are two different things, because you can get codes for close position, but the stop position code is what was alluding to it wasn't hitting fully closed either. And so when I was at the track and seeing that code, I associated it with it wasn't finding the closed position, and that wasn't right. So it was making me chase my tail on something that wasn't really the issue. So yeah, you know, just having that knowledge, being able to figure it out, work through the issue will save you a lot of time and money, and just hopefully make it an easier process to diagnose the issue versus just guessing. You know, you're never going to figure it out if you're just guessing. But yeah, hopefully this gives you guys a little bit more insight on what can go wrong. You know, hopefully it shows you that, again, even I'm not immune. As much good luck as I've had with these cars, I do have issues from time to time. Most of the time it's caused by me. Sometimes it's caused by the part. And it's just kind of one of those things that I know I need to be able to work through if the issue comes up. It's probably a lot easier said than done, but if you're going to be responsible with your build, this is the way that you should do it. Just be prepared and be grateful if you're one of the 99% that everything just goes smoothly, hunky-dory, and you can continue motivating your friends to buy a B58 as well. But yeah, I'm going to finish torquing this down. I'll do more videos in the future. We're going to start over tuning it, dialing it in on pump gas, ethanol, my full flex fuel tune, and hopefully the results are better, and I'll be able to share that with you guys as well, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I think that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.